Welcome back to the Automation Podcast. My name is Shawn, and today on the show we have a very special edition of the Automation Podcast for you. This is our special holiday 2022 edition, and I'm going to cover kind of our plans for 2023 as well as what was the top content for us for 2022, including the top all-time podcasts based on what you guys actually viewed and listened to for the year of 2022. So before I get to that, I do want to say that I have a special going on just until January 5th. And it's a special on my 7-course bundle over at theautomationschool.com. So you can get my Micrologics, Compact Logics, Control Logics, Micro 800, PanelView Plus, VUSC, and using CCWs with VFD course bundle for $549. You can also take another 10% off if you fill in the and subscribe to our newsletter over there. And if you put in where you watch or listen to this podcast in the order comments, I will give you another course worth $50 free of charge. It's my Mastering Logics Applications course with PLC Logics. So all you have to do is when you place that order before January 5th, just put that little note in the order comments. Hey, I listened to the Automation Podcast on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, wherever, the Automation blog. I will gift you that $50 course. I think it's on sale now, but it's going back to $50. So that's a special I'm running. It ends January 5th. I got to add all new bundles and I got to change all the pricing for 2023 and whatnot. And but I wanted to offer that to you guys. And it would be great to hear where you guys are listening and give you a free course at the same time. So with that said, I also I hope you all had a wonderful holiday. Don't know if you're celebrating Christmas like me or Hanukkah or some other holiday, but we're right in between the holiday season and New Year's. So I just want to say I hope you all had a wonderful holiday, a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, and hope that you're having a very enjoyable week this week. I know most of us are still working, even though, those people who work for the government and those people who work for, the kids in school are typically off this week. Most of us are still at work doing our thing. So I hope you're having a great week so far this week. And of course, I hope you have an awesome 2023. I'm pretty sure we're all going to have a great 2023. It looks like it's going to be a great year. So with that said, I want to get into first what our plans are for 2023. We have some great plans. I can't tell you all of the plans because there are some corporate content creators. And what I mean by that is, there are some people who work 8 to 5 for companies, big companies, whose job is to create content and be like a content creator on YouTube and LinkedIn and whatnot. So we don't want to tell them because no big company owns us. I own Insights and Automation. I hire freelancers to work for me. We hope to bring on some full-time employees later in the year to do editing and do marketing and whatnot. But there's no big company behind us. So we don't want to give them too many of our plans because, they have more resources than we do at the moment. So with that said, one of the big plans I plan on doing is for the Automation Podcast. We want to keep going every week. We've had a lot of fun doing this. We're seeing just on the audio side, over 100 people listening every single day, which is awesome. And on the video side, of course, we reach about over 3,000 people between the blog and YouTube and Rumble every single day with our content. So we enjoy doing it. And honestly, it's as much for you as it is for me because, we want to make sure you know what's the latest with products and what's going on out there. But I also need to get updated too. I'm here in the studio or in my office creating lessons, creating videos, creating articles. And, I don't get out much, just like most of you don't get out much. So to go to the trade shows and to see vendors and whatnot. So it really helps all of us stay up to date on what's new and exciting out there, and things that we might want to use in the future in our facilities. So with that said, I'm really looking forward to doing that. We also want to start talking to a lot of new vendors too. We want existing vendors back. We want to get new vendors on, and that's where you can help because it's difficult. It takes over a day to put every one of these episodes together. And you say, Shawn, why does it take so long? Well, you think the part where we're filming the podcast typically takes over an hour, right? So you have a pre-show, you have a post-show. Sometimes the episodes go over an hour and I have to cut them down. But there's also conversations that go on before we start and after the episode. And then editing it typically takes twice as long as the show. even at high speed, when you're doing, multiple, you're not listening to it at one time speed when you're editing it. But because you're stopping and taking out, hopefully, anything that's extremely distractive to the audience, like, FUBAs with the slides, or, helicopters, trains, planes, dogs, whatever, interruptions that come on. You try to take as much as out as you can. That takes a lot of time editing. That's why one of the full-time positions we want to hire for this coming year will be somebody to edit that video, because it's very time consuming. But you also have the pre-calls. You also have all the attempts and emails and contacting to get people to come on the show. And then you have the follow-up. You have creating thumbnails. You have uploading to all the different services. You have creating the thumbnails. It literally takes a day or more every week to do the podcast, but I love doing it, so I want to keep doing it. And I just want to thank all those vendors out there who do sponsor the show to make it ad-free, because that cuts about half of our costs out of doing it, which is great. And then they don't have their competitors advertising on the episode that they're on. So it's very cool that way as well. But really, if you guys could get out there, your favorite vendors, when they come in to tell you, or do a Teams meeting or a Zoom call, when they're there trying to tell you about cool new things, tell them they should come on the Automation Podcast. They're reaching, in every half an hour, they're reaching maybe 5-6 people. They come on the Automation Podcast, they could very easily reach, 10,000 or more people. Many of our episodes are over 10,000 views. So tell them, please encourage them to reach out to me. They can get me. They can call the office. You get the number over at the Automation School for our sales office. It's 413-749-4300. They can use the contact link at theautomationblog.com. They can get me on LinkedIn, but please encourage you, the viewers, you, the listeners. I want this show to be for you, and I need your help. Please encourage your favorite vendors to contact me to come on the show, because reaching out and trying to get them to come on, it can be very time consuming. So it'll be huge. And then, of course, we know we're getting the vendors you want on the show because you're encouraging them to come on. So with that said, another plan we have for 2023 is we're looking to open up a physical location, but not here in the Berkshires. My wife's kind of sick of the cold. I'm kind of sick of the cold too. Trying to heat the garage, the studio in the garage here is kind of tough. And we are kind of in the middle of nowhere. But in any case, I really want to open up a physical location kind of a little bit farther down south of the Appalachian. We're right on the Appalachian Trail here in Cheshire, but we'd like to move down about halfway down the country into maybe the Smoky Mountain areas, which is so beautiful, and open a physical location. And I'm kind of excited about this because I have a great vision for this, where we'll have this building where we have on one side, we have training rooms, a couple of training rooms, so we can hold up to 12 students each in each training room. And I can do live classes, and I want to bring in instructors to do live classes as well. But I also thought in the waiting room, we could do a museum of legacy devices. Like, I've had people send me all kinds of old PLCs and HMIs, and I have some of my own that I've collected. And I'd love to work with vendors and listeners to get more older PLCs, HMIs, VFDs, sensors, just anything industrial automation to put on display in our kind of the waiting area in the front of the building. Like in a car dealer, you'd have all the newest cars in there. I like to have like pedestals with different PLCs, like the PLC2 with the story on it, or, the S7300 with a story on it, And I think it'd be fun to have that museum in the lobby. It gives some, people, you typically want to get to your course before it starts, right? So you get time to blow. So, hey, why not, check out the history of Siemens and Allen Bradley and Mitsubishi and Phoenix and all these other great vendors, Banner and all these other great vendors we've had on in the lobby while you're hanging out, right? And then on the other side of the building, I want to have a couple of rooms for the podcast so we can have live guests in, right? So right now I have so much crammed into the studio. You've probably seen the pictures before. We got everything crammed in here. It's kind of a mess. And, it's a part of my garage, right? So we want to have a couple of, one room with a couple of comfy chairs, kind of like you see those professional podcasting, those really big names in podcasting. They have these nice kind of like living rooms with a couple of comfortable chairs. But instead of a living room environment, I want more like an industrial environment, right? And, maybe with the wall control on the back here and, all kinds of different products and whatnot. But we'd love to be able to bring people in, guests in to talk about what's new and exciting in industrial automation. And then adjacent to that, we'd like to have like Linus has over at Linus Tech Tips. And I know I'm a computer guy, so I'm wicked in the computers, so I'm a fan of Linus's, but I know most people in industrial automation are not, so they have no idea who Linus is. But if you ever watch Linus Tech Tips, his new building, he has a big, like a butcher block workbench where he throws the computers on and will put video cards in and out and coolers in and out and all that stuff. So we want to do something like that, bigger than what I have here in the studio today, where we can have vendors come in and say, oh, hey, we're going to set up our new VFD and this is what you're going to do. And you're going to do this, that, and the other thing. Or maybe it's a new sensor or a new PLC or whatever. Actually have the vendors come in and do it with us live and, have all the overhead cameras and whatnot. And that's the other position we want to hire for is a full-time editor. We have to need marketing and we need somebody to do kind of the production stuff too. So that's kind of the plans. This building, I got a picture of it in my head. I am excited. I start looking for it in early 2023 and hopefully down in that area where it's a little bit warmer and won't be so cold. Not that I love the Berkshires. I really do. It's beautiful up here. But we get lots of snow. It gets really cold and my wife's kind of sick of it. So, it'll be fun to live closer to the kids too because 3 of our 4 kids have moved down south. So, in any case, those are kind of our plans for 2023. One more thing I do plan on doing, which I'll go ahead and tell you guys now. Hopefully none of the competitors are listening, but I'm hoping to do a daily show. So where I just get up in the morning, grab a cup of coffee, sit down and talk about something new or some question a customer asked. So keep an eye on that. That's still very early in development, but I hope to start it very, very early January. Again, it's just going to be kind of like a rough, hey, let's sit down over a cup of coffee and talk about one topic, either one question, one piece of news, or something like that. So I got that going on with another website I'm going to be doing, and we'll talk more about that in 2023. Again, we don't want the corporate folks to try to beat us to the punch. But in any case, so that's kind of our plans for 2023. Very excited about them. Can't wait to have some of you come visit us at our new physical location. Still don't know how we're going to fund all this. There's lots of options. We could do corporate sponsors. We could do like a Kickstarter where people buy a lifetime pass to our training. Really putting that in the hands of the guy upstairs. But we know this is the direction we're going to go, and just can't wait to share a tour of the building with you. And I'm sure it's going to be a journey. It's going to start out, it's going to be empty, and we'll slowly add stuff to it. And the museum would probably consist of like 5 or 6 pieces. Hopefully we'll have 100 different pieces in the lobby museum over time, but life is a journey, right? It's not, you don't want to just get to the destination and have nothing to do, right? You got to enjoy the journey. So with that said, now I want to kind of switch gears. If you have any questions about this, please contact me, automationblog.com, click on the contact link, send me a message, and let me know. So we'd love to work with anybody out there who wants to work with us. But with that said, now I want to switch topics. So that's kind of the future of where we're going. Now I want to switch and talk about the top 10 content, like the top 10 episodes of the Automation Podcast and so on. Excuse me. And I want to kind of do this like in a New Year's Day type of top 10 countdown. So what we're going to do here is I am recording my screen. I have the Automation blog up. Everything I talk about will be at theautomationblog.com. So if you're listening, if you're driving, if you're working out, if you're taking a walk with the dog, and you can't watch right now, everything I talk about is at theautomationblog.com. Okay. So, and here you can see I got 3 of them are released, and one of them will be released tomorrow. Now, if I remember correctly, the way I can switch tabs when I have the screen maximized is Control Tab. And of course, you have to select the window first and then Control Tab. Okay, so here we are. This is the top 10 episodes of 2022 of the Automation Podcast. Now, these are the episodes that get the most views, the most listens in 2022, but it goes all the way back to episode 1, right? So we have 133 episodes. Now, some of them just released in the last few weeks, so it's harder for them to make the top 10 list, right? When they're competing with episodes that have been out for nearly 10 years, right? But this, I did want to stress that this is all time, okay? The top episodes of the Automation Podcast all time. What I did is I took the YouTube, the Automation blog, and the audio stats, added them together to come up with the total stats for each episode. So without further ado, let's start our top 10 countdown of the Automation Podcast top 10 episodes. And number 10, and this is actually a tie, but I haven't updated the site yet. Number 10 was our Unified Comfort Panel podcast, episode 56 with Ramey Miller. And this actually tied with a banner. I forget which banner episode it was, but when I reran the numbers, there was a couple extra views on the banners in the 2 days between I ran the numbers. So it actually caught up to this episode. So I'll update this here. But this was, I guess a lot of people out there want to know about Siemens' brand new line of HMIs, the Unified Comfort Panel. Very powerful, very cool looking. I actually got one up here. It's not on because if I have turned too much stuff on, we trip the breaker. Another reasons why we need a building because either that or upgrade our service. But in any case, really great episode. Raymond's been on a couple times. He did basic panels. He did a complete overview, but this one has just had a lot of staying power. Matter of fact, I've awarded this episode for 2022. I awarded it the episode award for staying power because it was on the list last year at number 4, and it stayed on a second year, right? People are still watching it at number 10. So that it gets the staying power award for 2022 for the Automation Podcast. Now, number 9, this is one of our best of 2022 episodes. It was a PowerFlex episode on the PowerFlex 755 TS. Okay, very popular episode. It came out in 2022 and made the 2022 list, which is impressive. And I don't know that Adam is still at Rockwell. I thought when I was tagging him on LinkedIn that he was showing up at a different company. But he did a great job going over the 755 TS PowerFlex VFD. And I think it was the first time we had Rockwell on to talk about drives. Love to have him come back on. We've had Mitsubishi on, Siemens on, and other people on to talk about drives. But drives is definitely a core part of what we want to cover at the Automation Blog and on the Automation Podcast. So if you make an industrial automation, if you make an industrial VFD, we want to hear about it here at the Automation Podcast and Automation Blog. But that was great. So that episode gets a best of 2022 because it did come out this year and make the list. So that was number 9. So now we're going to number 8. And this episode, another best of 2022 award winner. This was Inside the Book of Code Sys with Gary Pratt. This is where Gary came on the show and really just took us through his new book, The Book of Code Sys. And I had a lot of fun. He actually very kindly, now this is a very thick, expensive book to produce. It's like a $300 book. He very kindly sent me a copy as a sample too, which we do plan on utilizing here in 2023 for various projects. And I want to continue to promote his book because this was a Herculean effort putting this together. And really appreciate him coming on the show. And even though this show was from this year, it still made the list. So a lot of people must be very interested in this episode. Okay, number 7. This is a great episode. This is What's New in Studio 5000 version 35. Now, I still have to write an article about this, but we actually had Kristen from Rock Automation come on the show. It was the first time we had anybody from the Studio 5000 group on the show, and it was Rockwell's first time on any podcast to talk about Studio 5000. So we were excited to have Kristen on and to be the first podcast that she promoted Studio 5000 on. She's, of course, been with Rockwell for, I believe, over a decade. She did a great job, even though it was her first podcast, and really just super happy to have them on to talk about Studio 5000. There's a huge part of our audience that uses it on a daily basis, and they want to know more about it. So I really appreciate that. And this episode wins the Audio-Only Podcast Award because, well, it wasn't number 1 on YouTube. It wasn't number 1 on the Automation Blog. If we add up all the audio podcasts, the Spotify's, iTunes, Google's, TuneIn's, iHeart's, all of those, Pandora's, all those guys, this was the number 1 episode of the Automation Podcast this year on the audio edition. So congratulations. This is also one of our best of 22s because we did film it in 2022. So congratulations, Kristen and Rockwell. Number 6, Factory Talk Logix Echo. Now, this was something we filmed last year with Brad Prozac. He was running up Echo at the time. I think he's on to something else. He's been with Rockwell forever. And in this episode, he talks to us about Logix Echo. Now, Logix Echo, if you don't know, it's kind of like the emulator for the 5580s or the L8Xs. And I think it was a great episode. They actually gave me a 1-year key so I could play with it, but I don't have a 5580. They're just way too expensive to put on an expense report. And, we don't have the latest version of Studio 5000 because it's, I don't know, $4, $5, $6 grand a year. So we're hoping at some point in the future, maybe in 2023, Rockwell will look at us like they look at educational institutions and let us get one of those educational toolkits because, hey, we're trying to educate the public on their products, and all the other vendors have sent us in a copy of the software. So if we'd be happy to pay for one of those inexpensive toolkits, or they could donate us a copy, but we can't really cover some of their newest stuff because of there's a price barrier there. In any case, that was number 6. Number 5, Siemens Motion Control with Kevin Wu. Kevin came on and did a great job. Now, this doesn't talk about specific, servo drives and motors. This is all about kind of the PLC side, the programming side. And Kevin did a great job on this. Really was great to have him on and talk about the Siemens Motion Control. I learned a lot. And this also wins one of our Best of 2022 awards because this podcast was released this year. Number 4, and this is an oldie but goodie, Introduction to EtherCAT by SMC with Nathan Eisel. Nathan did a great job introducing us to EtherCAT. This show was not released in 2022, so it has Staying Power. It won the Staying Power Award and the Moving Up Award because last year it was only at number 6. So over the last year, it actually rose up to number 4 on the list. So really appreciate Nathan. I don't know if he's still at SMC, but we'd love to get him back on to do more episodes in the future on different stuff because he did a great job with that. So on to number 3. Number 3 is what's new in TIA Portal V17. Now, we just did V18, and it barely missed the list. It was like number 11. There was a tie for number 10 with Banner and the Unified Comfort Panels. But and I do have to update this post to indicate that. But V18 almost made it, but they didn't. Again, we just recorded that, so I was surprised it did so well so quickly. But V17 is back on the list. It was number 1 last year. It's number 3 this year. So this year, a lot of people want to know what's new with TIA Portal V17. Super duper job by John DeTellum and Louis Navarres. Sorry, Louis, I always struggle with your name, but 2 great guys. They're friends of the show. They've been on multiple times. Just great people, great company. Really appreciate working with them. I mean, if you look around the office here, you can see in the studio, almost all of the Siemens stuff you see has been donated by Siemens themselves. So we did a course together. We've done multiple videos. They sponsor them so they don't have commercials on them. So just been phenomenal working with these guys. And I know anybody out there who's working with these guys, it's just been a great experience. 2 of the best guys in the industry. And really, really appreciate them coming on and their support. So this episode ranked number 3 for 2022. Won a couple of awards. It won the number 3 overall. It won Staying Power because it was number 1 in 2021. So just a very popular episode. Okay, on to number 2. Now this one is interesting. This was our first time doing something with Schneider Electric and Louis Aron. And I thought it was a phenomenal episode, kind of introducing us to their next generation of automation with their PACs. I really love to get them back on to do more because I think there's so much more we can learn about what they have. I know it's a very popular brand in America where I live, so and worldwide it's very popular. And that came in at number 2 this year. And here's the thing. They came in number 2 overall, but they were number 1 at the Automation blog. As a matter of fact, they had thousands and thousands and thousands more views on the blog than they did on YouTube, which isn't that normal. I mean, a lot of times we'll see YouTube outperform or iTunes or audio outperform than the blog, because the blog, a lot of people think of us as written content there, right? So in any case, this was the number 1 podcast for viewing on the blog. Again, you can view the podcast ad-free on the blog because there's already ads on the blog. So I don't want to double ad you with ads in the video and ads on the blog. So you can see the videos at theautomationblog.com without ads. Or you can see them without ads if the vendor sponsors the thing, covers about half of the cost of producing the episode. So this was number 2 overall, next generation automation with Schneider Electric and their PACs. And it was number 1 on the blog, and it was a best of 2022 because we did it, I believe, in April. So and that brings us to number 1, which is great because this is an oldie but goodie. This was our number 1 when you add up all the stats for 2022. What episodes were watched the most or listened to the most? It is our What is IO Link and Why Use It by IFM with Yun Lee. Sorry, Young. I always struggle with these names, but what a great job he did on this. Awesome job. And I think Young may have moved on, but This was a great episode. He did a great job. We really appreciate IFM. They've really supported us. We've covered their temperature sensors. We've covered their Ethernet IP, I/O adapters. We've covered their encoders, their HMI PLC up there. We covered that. That works on CodeSys. And that was actually my first CodeSys PLC. And man, I would love to do more with them this year. They work really great to us, and just happy to see them win the award for #1 overall for 2022, #1 on our YouTube for us, and for the Automation Podcast. And they get the Staying Power and Moving Up awards because they were #2 last year, so they finally took over that #1 spot. So congratulations to both IFM and Yen Lee for a great episode, and really appreciate you coming on the podcast. Okay, so now let's look at the top articles at the Automation blog for 2022. We'll look at the top 10 there. And I limited this to articles that were published since 2021, January 1st, 2021, because we have some older articles from like 2013, 14, 15, 16 that are just extremely popular. So I wanted to kind of have a fresh look at what new content is the most popular. And so these are articles that were published after January 1st, 2021 and got the most views in 2022. And we'll start with number 10, and this is an article I wrote. It's What's New in Factory Talk View Site Edition version 13. And this got the Best of 2022 award because it was published in 2022 and really just goes through all the new features and functions of version 13 of Factory Talk View Site Edition. Number 9 on the list is How to Migrate PLC and Slick 500 programs to Studio 5000 Logix controllers. And this is another article I wrote. And this goes through both ways. There's an old way of doing it and a new way of doing it. Sometimes you have to use the old way of doing it if you don't have the new RS Logix 5 and 500 because they're not in support. So I cover both of them. And this is also in my ebook. You can see right here, my Logix Book of Knowledge, which is on sale now for $9.99. Lifetime copy and updates. Okay, number 8 is an article by our good friend of the show, freelance writer, who we hired to write an article about Mitsubishi. And this one's about common data types used in Mitsubishi PLC. So this comes in at number 8. And we've had Paul on the podcast, so you can see the interview with Paul there. And his article here about Mitsubishi came in at number 8. Number 7. This is one by, I believe, Brandon Cooper, who we hired to write us an article about how to do message instructions from a ControlLogix to a Micro 800 PLC. Okay, so congratulations, Brandon, for coming in at number 7 with that article. Number 6 is another article by Brandon. This one is Time Synchronization and ControlLogix Systems. So this is an article we paid him to write for us about how to do that from his experience in his plant. Now, this article got a couple of awards. It got the Staying Power Award, or I should say one award. Staying Power Award because it was number 5 last year. So congratulations, Brandon, on that article. Number 5. What's New in Logix Designer version 34? I think this is Brandon again. I didn't have time to write this, so I hired him to write this for me. And this also wins a Best of 2022 because this was released in 2022. Number 4 is another article from Paul Hunt. This is the timers and counters used in Mitsubishi PLCs. So Paul kind of took some of his knowledge and experience using Mitsubishi and wrote an article about that for us. Number 3 is an article about converting VMware VMX files for use in VirtualBox. Now, I use VMware here because it's what I've been using for well over a decade, and I know it, and I'm very efficient with it. But VirtualBox is definitely an option when you don't have the cash to spend $150 in VMware. VirtualBox is a free option. This is good for those people learning at home, and they want to install a demo version of the software, but they don't want to install it on the home computer. All they need is a Windows 10 license, and they can spin up a VirtualBox. And if you have a VMware VMX from work that you want to convert to for use at VirtualBox, this article will show you how to do that. So that was number 3. Number 2. Oh, and that also won the number 3 overall award and the Staying Power Award because it was number 4 last year. So Staying Power, and I got to update this, and also moving on up because it moved up from 4 to 3. Number 2, this is an article, I believe it's by Michael Elting. He's one of our freelancers. He's written 3 articles so far for us. We'd love to have him back to write more. But he talks about writing your first TIA code in SCL. So some of us know this language as structured text. In Siemens, it's called SCL, I believe. And you can use SCL in either an SCL block, or you can use it in ladder or function blocks as well. So a lot of people don't know that, but you can. And he kind of goes through writing your first article. So he gets the awards, or this article got the award for coming in number 2 overall and staying power because it was number 2 last year as well. So very interesting topic. A lot of people checking out this article. Okay, number 1 is an article I wrote back in 2021, I believe. It's an update to one of my articles. It's about how to download for free RSLogic's Micro Starter Lite, RSLinks, and RSLogic's Emulate 500. And this is great. I hope Rockwell keeps doing this because it's a great way to learn RSLogic's 500, RSLogic's Micro, Studio 5000, because RSLogic's Micro Starter Lite, the interface is almost identical to all of those. So somebody can download this, they can download the emulator, and they can learn at home for free. And what vendor does want to do that, right? So I think this is a very popular article. It was number 1. It was number 1 last year too. So you can see how many people are looking for a copy of RSLogic's to learn on. So that's our top 10 articles. Let's take a look at our top 10 episodes of the Automation Show. And these are shows that are since 2020. Okay, so newer shows. And so let me scroll down here. Number 10, this kind of surprised me. It's an older show. It's ControlLogic's reading data from PLC 5 and SLC 500 over Data Highway Plus. It's episode 27 of season 1. That comes in at number 10. Number 9 is IFM temperature sensor, set up, wire, and use. That's season 1, episode 47. Okay. Number 8 is the unboxing of the Siemens S7 1500 compact PLC starter kit. That's episode 40 of season 1. And this was actually on the list last year as number 6. So this one got the Staying Power Award because it's still on the list even after a year. Number 7 is using an IFM encoder with an SM 1500 high-speed counter. So this is season 1, episode 50B. And this was also on the list last year. So it got the Staying Power Award and Moving Up Award because this was number 9 last year. So it actually moved up to number 7. A lot of people want to learn how to use an encoder with an SM 1500 high-speed counter. Number 6. Okay, this was using signal modules with an S7 1200. Those are the expansion modules. We go through wired program and test. This was episode 48 of season 1. And this one also got the Staying Power Award because it was number 4 last year. So it's still on the list, even though it's over a year old. Okay, number 5 was my PLC's past, present, and future. I actually filmed this for as a instructor at the automation school for the Control Automation Day for Control.com. So they were inviting different people to come on and present at their virtual presentation. And so I actually had like 48 hours to put this together. So there are some hard cuts in it, but I had a lot of fun doing it. And I hope they invite me back this year. But this is what was one. I didn't do a lot of the automation show in 2022. So this one is one of the few ones on this list. It's a best of 2022 winner because it was actually filmed in 2022. Next we have, for number 4, is the Wago PLC Starter Kit unboxing and setup. So this was episode 44 of season 1. And this one was actually, even though it's number 4 overall, it was actually the number 1 episode of the automation show viewed on the automation blog. And since it was on last year as number 7, it won the Staying Power and Moving Up Awards because it's back on the list and it's at number 4, not number 7 anymore. Okay, now on to number 3. Actually, a little spoiler here. Number 3, 2, and 1 are the same as last year. Number 3 is Mitsubishi FX5 PLC First Time Programming with GXWorks 3. That's episode 28B of season 1. And this one, again, it was number 3 last year. It's number 3 this year. So it won the Staying Power Award. And we want to thank Mitsubishi. We hope we can work more with them this year for sending in that the sample for us to use on the show. Number 2, Wago PLC, First Time Programming, episode 46 of season 1. And again, thanks to Wago for sending in the starter pack. And just glad to see that it's still very popular. These First Time Programming are very, very popular. And number 1, again, it was number 1 last year. It's our number 1 video for this year, overall, among all our videos. I think we got 600 videos or more. And this is our number 1 video nearing 400,000 views. It's First Time Programming and Wiring an SM 1500. Super thanks to Siemens for sending in like I said, most of the Siemens stuff you see here in the studio was donated. Very few pieces I had to get off the secondhand market because of supply shortages. But a huge thanks for them working with us. The content we've done on Siemens has been extremely popular. And this was #1 overall for the automation show in 2022. And it was also #1 on YouTube. And it was #1 last year. So it won the Staying Power Award as well. So with that, we got one more top 10 list to go through. Let me go ahead and change over to it. This is the top 10 episodes of the Automation Minute. We worked with a lot of vendors this year to produce content for the Automation Minute. This actual article goes out tomorrow on the Automation blog. But in any case, let's go through the top 10 for the Automation Minute. Number 10 on the list is our Automation Minute episode on the Unified Comfort Panel. They sent in this beautiful sample, and we covered it, unboxed it, and talked about it in episode 5 of season 5, and that came in at number 10. All right, so number 9 was a P&F inductive procs that they sent in as a sample. We covered this in season 5, episode 2, and that episode came in at number 9. First look at the P&F inductive procs sensor. Okay, number 8. This is a video that came kind of a result of a question that came in from one of our backers, supporters over at automation.locals.com. I had done a lot for him in explaining the real-time clock in a Micrologix 1400. And so I decided to do an Automation Minute episode on it. And it's a 2022 episode, so it wins the Best of 2022 award. And it's all about how to use the Micrologix 1400's real-time clock. So season 5, episode 36. Number 7 on the list, this is a starter pack that was sent in from Automation Direct. Really appreciate that. It's a Productivity 2000 starter kit unboxing and first look. And this is episode 20 of season 5. And just really thank them for sending it in, and glad it made the top 10 list for this year. Number 6, and this kind of blows me away. This is a video I did this year, so it's a Best of 2022 winner. And this is my Automation Minute episode about the Slick 100 programming software. So I don't know what it was, but I had a few people contacting me all within a short period of time saying, how do I get the Slick 100 programming software? Now, I had downloaded it when it was free from Rockwell. So I had it on my hard drive or on my NAS. And, I didn't feel right publishing it for everybody, because that's really what Rockwell should be doing, right? I don't know why they took it off. But in any case, so what I did is a kind of a compromise. It's free software that I downloaded for free. So I made it available to all the people who are members of automation.locals.com. So for $2, right? Not even a cup of coffee at Dunkin' Donuts. So you can get it up there. And I kind of walk through what's available and whatnot. Now, I don't have it set up here. So if somebody goes over to automation.locals.com and you're like, hey, teach me how to use a Slick 100, can't do that because I don't actually have room to set it up right now. Number 5. Automation Minute episode for actually 5, 4, and 3. They're all related, episode 26, 27, and 28, I believe. They're the top manuals for S7 PLCs. So number 6 is top manuals overall. Number 5 is top manuals overall. Number 4 is must-have manuals for the S7 1500. And number 3 is must-have manuals for the S7 1200. So those are number 5, 4, and 3. And these are all 2022 releases, so they win the Best of 2022 awards. Okay, so now we're getting to the end of the list here. Number 2 of the Automation Minute is the Scalence Managed Switch from Siemens. This is a sample they sent in. They sent in a unmanaged and a managed. I think I'm using the managed in one of the trainers over there. But in any case, unless it's behind me and I don't see it. Oh yeah, it's over here. So in any case, I haven't set that up. I was hoping to get them, Siemens, on the podcast to go over the managed switch line and kind of maybe do a little tutorial on how to use it. So still hoping. Hope is internal. But that was the number 2 most popular episode of the Automation Minute for 2022, which I thought was interesting. A lot of people want to know about Siemens managed switches. And number 1 is a sample sent in to us and is sponsored, so there was no commercials on it, episode of the Automation Minute. It was about Mox's brand new NAT 102 device. It's this tiny little 2-port switch that does NAT, right? It has a NAT table in there, and you can do NAT routing and whatnot. This was number 1 on overall, but this actually beat out the second place managed switches from Siemens, which was number one on YouTube. It beat that out and became number one because there was a great number of people viewing this on the automation blog. So because it outperformed on the automation blog, it was able to beat out the number one episode of the Automation Minute on YouTube to become the number one overall episode of the Automation Minute for 2022. So thank you, Moxa, for supporting us. They've sent in switches. They've sent in the SNAT device. They've been very supportive and sponsoring. We hope to continue to work with them. They have a great name in the field. We want to work with all the big and small players out there. So like I said earlier, please, next time you see your favorite vendor, have them contact me about coming on the show. Even if they don't sponsor it, we'll still talk to them about coming on the podcast. And with that, that is the holiday special from the Automation Podcast. That was a lot to talk about. I hope you enjoyed it, whether you're watching or listening. I hope you enjoyed going through those top 10 lists with me and also talking about what we plan to do in 2023. And at this point, I'm going to end the show by just wishing you all a very safe, happy, and healthy New Year's Eve. So just remember, a lot of people get partying in the party mood New Year's Eve. So just be safe, be careful, be healthy. And I just want to wish you all lots of peace in 2023 and success. May you have a lot of success and have a lot of joy in 2023. And with that, I'm going to end the show. Thank you all. Happy New Year. And until next time, peace.